He.
Yes, I do see him.
Oh, hi, Umesh.
No, we are yet to allow them. Wait for
Okay,
a second.
he's still in the waiting room. Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon, dear participants. Good afternoon, Umesh sir. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. Great to have you join us today.
Yes. Looking forward to today's session.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So I also see Parvati, Pranav, Hiral, Chetan. Thank you all for joining in today. So we have a couple of minutes before we begin with our today's webinar. Well, it's time to begin with our today's webinar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The gig economy, most of us have heard of it. Many of us work in it, but few truly understand what it is. While it's easy to write the gig economy as a buzz phrase used by many techies and founders, it's an important concept that has far reaching implications for employees and managers in most sectors. The New Yorker call the gig economy the on demand peer or platform economy. Join us for this very intriguing session where our industry experts will be sharing their experience and views on what these gig-based platforms have to offer companies. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots, the gig economy today, tomorrow, and beyond. To know more about HRAI and its event, I would request all the participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session request all participants to kindly give your feedback on this session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed panel members for our today's webinar. Ms. Joyeeta Chatterjee, Chief People Officer, Future Consumer Limited, a global human resource leader who has shaped high-performing culture at major growth companies with progressive technical resources, prolific communication, and robust development programs. Ms. Joyeeta is a HR leader with over 25 years of experience spanning across different industry segments such as pharmaceuticals, technology, telecom, FMCG, infrastructure, and e-commerce. She is an alumni of Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune. She has managed teams across various geographies and has been involved in large-scale business transformation projects, mergers and acquisition, organization redesigning, and talent management. Currently, she is the Chief People Officer of Future Consumer Limited, the FMCG arm of Future Group based at Mumbai. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Thank you, Ms. Joyeeta, for accepting our invite.
Hello,
Our next,
everyone. Thank you.
our next panel member, Ms. Richa Singh, Director, Strategy, HR, BD and Ops, ADDREC Solutions Private Limited. Richa is a well-organized, efficient, open-minded, receptive, and innovative, a doting single mother of a 7-year-old daughter, have an ability to relate to people of all levels and help them overcome problems personally and professionally. Always keen to obtain new skills and flexible approach to all work and personal situation. Highly positive and reliable and avid listener and learner. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Thank you, Ms. Richa, for accepting our invite.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Our next panel member come moderator for our today's session, Ms. Grishma Thampi, Chief Image Consultant, Events Image Management. Grishma is an MBA and a certified image management consultant. Her focus has been on corporate training and group workshops. She has conducted over 700 workshops addressing close to 12,500 participants in India and the Middle East. She has successfully designed and delivered quality corporate training programs for employees at various levels and across industries like education, banking and finance, media, retail, pharma, manufacturing, and consulting. She has conducted training programs for companies like BNP Paribas, Deloitte, JM Financials, Religare Wealth Management, Reliance ADAG, Tata Group, Oberoi Group, to name a few. Trained by the senior most image consultant internationally, she is also the master trainer at Femina Believe Learning Academy, a Times of India initiative. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The details for the same are mentioned in the chat window. Without taking much time, I would now request Ms. Grishma to take over this session. Over to you, Ms. Grishma.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter, for that wonderful introduction. So without taking much time, this is a concept or a word that's gaining a lot of momentum. So the term gig economy was first coined by a journalist called Tina Brown way back in 2009. But let's understand from our experts what really is the meaning of this term called gig economy. So my first question is for Richa. Richa, could you please share, your understanding of this term called gig economy? How would you really define it?
So thank you so much for asking this. This is very important to understand. And in my point of view, I feel that this gig economy is termed to freelancers or the subcontractors or the contractors. It is the economy of them, basically, where jobs are flexible, temporary, and time-bound, and less commitment.
Yeah, great. Joyeeta, anything from your side? Would you want to add your perspective to this?
Yeah, so it is actually now the alternate workforce that is coming up, and it is prevalent and there to stay. And it's also called as independent workforce for the reasons which Richa just mentioned. That it gives flexibility to people to choose whether they want to do it full time and remain as contractors and work, or maybe even part time, have it as a source of additional employment and revenue generation and so on and so forth. So it is called the independent workforce in that sense, with practically no attachment, a long-term attachment with any particular organization. They're free to go ahead and do their own work.
Absolutely. So, that's very interesting because there's a recent study that was done by Gallup where they realized 51% of people who are already, in the gig economy actually do not even want to go back to traditional work. And at present, about 36% of the US workforce is involved in the gig economy. And these are people who may be doing a secondary full-time job as well. So, Joyeeta, according to you, why is the gig economy gaining so much momentum all of a sudden? And more importantly, what would be the benefits of the gig economy?
Sure. So, in fact, with more and more technology being, used these days, it's become very easy to, aggregate them at a point in place. Because in the past also it has been there, as you mentioned. I mean, this kind of alternate workforce was prevalent. It is gaining momentum because it is far more easier now with the help of these platforms to reach out to them, to engage with them in a far more structured manner. Like today, for example, I mean, Uber, Ola, or in India, you talk about the urban company, all of these, workforce, the way they are able to manage this at practically similar cost, low cost, but, premium quality, that has become the advantage of this. And it is safe. So there are, all these aggregators are helping in to bring in safety measures, which independent workforce, if you're not aligned to, let's say, a particular platform, we're not able to provide. And the reach would have also been limited. So that is the advantage. And there are companies which are investing so much of technology, so much of learning, so much of engagement with them, and that makes it far more, I would say, acceptable to all the consumers.
Absolutely. Very interesting, Joyeeta. Thank you so much. Richa, anything from your side? How is this going to really impact the economy and the workforce, according to you?
See, I can give you an example which I had in the office a few days before. So this is a very recent example. I had a courier coming from Amazon. Fortunately, I was on the reception, so I took the parcel by myself. But this guy was wearing a Domino's ka belt, So I generally asked him, "Bhai, tu Amazon के लिए काम कर रहा है या Domino's के लिए?" तो ही सेड कि मैडम मैं दोनों करता हूँ, मैं सुबह पार्सल डिलीवरी करता हूँ, अब शाम को 7 से 10 बजे तक मैं पिज्जा सर्व करूंगा. So I said, wow, my God, dinner कि वहाँ पे ही मिल जाता है. So I'm happy. So he's doing his, out of his choice, he's doing his 2 jobs and trying to, I think he might be having so many friends also doing this job. I believe Uber and Swiggy people, Uber guys also, they do go to the college in the morning and probably they start their shifts in the evening by 5 o'clock to drive Uber and they earn their money. So this is something when we interact with them, we come to know what gig workers are. So yes, this would be my answer to it and my opinion.
Great, Richa. I think that was a very interesting example and very relevant, something that we see around us.
Yes.
So, that's absolutely true because like I mentioned some time back, there was a research done by Upwork that 50% of these freelancers, as we call them, they do not want to go back to a traditional job, even if it means more money and more stability. So how do you think, Richa, this entire gig economy is going to change the workforce, their attitude as well?
So as I earlier talked, they are generally what I believe, these are millennials and they have a very different mindset. These millennials prefer short-term jobs and they're not looking to commit more or for a long-term jobs. They also prefer to have various flavors in their profile, which probably this brings flexibility, less commitment on part of the employee and the employer both. So yeah, I think this is the changing workforce because of the gig economy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Joyita, I'd want to know your opinion. So like Richa said, people are looking for more flavor, looking for different kind of work, do not want to be committed. But what about something like job security in the gig economy? Why does Gen Z, when they believe more in permanent employability instead of permanent employment, how does a company really manage this?
See, one thing I want to add to what has been said so far is while a lot of millennials definitely are part of the gig economy, but it is not just them. The gig economy has helped to bring back a lot of people post their retirement because they can work from home and, or for that matter, a lot of times, when you drive a Uber or whatever, you see little aged people also driving and, so it is not just the young people, but yes, they are more prone to it. That's available right now. Or for that matter, a lot of women workforce who had taken a break, they also are making use of this particular situation and the advantage that you have. So the way I would look at it is that from a job security, as you rightly said, that it is more of employability which is more important to them than employment. They are not looking at the security and safety measures associated with a long term traditional job, because what they value is the possibility of making maybe more money or some additional money depending upon their situation. If it's a student, they might be looking at making additional money. If it is a housewife, they may be looking at making additional money. So the traditional jobs do not give you that kind of a flexibility. And so the only thing which needs to be kept in mind is agility, the fast pace and agility which is required with this. If someone has that mindset, this is the place to be. Uh, what I have also seen is that when you talk of, you know, there are a couple of types of people who fall into this. There are also those reluctant workforce who look at it as a short-term, scenario to be. Right? There are some who may come there as a choice, but there are many others who may have had a career break, and because of it, they're using it for a short-term measure, and they would always go back to the normal traditional industry. So it's a combination of people, large amount of them who are motivated to be in this environment, and there are also some of those reluctant workforce also who would go back.
Absolutely. I think Joyita, you've made a very, very interesting point that, it's not just limited to millennials or the Gen Z. This actually opens up a lot of possibilities even for women and, this retired workforce. I think it's a very interesting point. So coming back to, when you spoke about a lot of individuals, some may prefer the gig economy, whereas for the others, it's just a stopgap because maybe they're looking at their own career graph as well. So today, with the evolving job market, many workers are not even looking to create or make their career within the same company anymore. But how do you think the gig economy is going to impact the career graph of an individual? So, Joyita, if you can please answer this.
See, for the gig economy workforce, they are not really looking, as we said, long term. I mean, in a typical traditional place, you at least look at a 1 year horizon, 3 years horizon, and there, that's how you a typical traditional HR, people, all of us, we think of defining their career graphs accordingly. Here, the time frame is much longer.
I think Joyita has got a weak connection. Richa, can I ask you to add your insights on this particular point? How do you think it's going to impact an individual's career graph?
See, I believe this is have started already impacting the career graphs. If I talk about when I used to take interviews, I've been taking interviews on a daily basis. But when I used to interview people, say around approximately 8 to 10 years before, a minimum commitment, if you ask them कि कितना stable रहोगे भाई एक organization में, they generally used to commit 5 to 6 years on a minimum. But when I meet today people, I'm talking about my company and the recruitment part of the job, right? They are not willing to commit more than 1 year or 2 years. We have to make them understand that, we will require at least 3 to 6 months to make you up and ready to, shoot.
Right.
And we do also have an opportunity, not only recruitment, we have a team leader, we have a practice leader. Until unless you will not learn this basic, I will not be able to grow. They want to grow very fast, but they don't want to learn very fast. So I always, even ask them that, you use Facebook, you use LinkedIn. But when I ask about the comparison, they say LinkedIn तो हमको आता ही नहीं है. मैं कहा भैया फिर Facebook and Instagram, how do you operate?
Right.
So these thought process of these people, when I'm talking about when I hire people, right? And because of this COVID pandemic now, people have actually started opting to work from home. They have got so they want to work part-time, they want to work from home. Now this has actually become a very big problem for us to manage them and
True.
to hire them. Yeah.
So, that's very interesting because of the current situation, every company is facing this challenge.
Right.
And obviously, this is a permanent challenge when it comes to the gig economy, that how do companies and managers really manage the workforce that's working remotely? So any insights on this?
So sorry, can you just come again with
My
the
question was, Richa, that all of us are facing this today, right?
Yes,
Since we are
yes, we
working
are.
remotely,
Yeah.
it's challenging for managers to see how the entire workforce and the workflow, so to say. So, how do you think companies can manage workers who are working, as freelancers?
Okay, so I'll be very honest. During this peak pandemic time, I would talk about April, May, June. So we had a lot of people who had been working with us from Jodhpur, working in the office, but they went back because their parents called them. Now these people had already gone, and we had to hire back because there were few clients who were actively hiring, and we had to deliver. So we actually, went back to our female old employees who were wanting to work from home earlier.
Right.
And this struck us, and my God, let's, target them and call them back, not in the office. They can work from home, and they will be only paid for the amount of time they are working. Right. So we also had, in fact, we have some people as a gig worker who are working for 3 to 4 hours and working remotely, be it Jodhpur, Ranchi, Indore. They are working, and our delivery is not getting impacted at all. So I would say, I can say thank you to all these people who are actually supporting us sitting from their home.
So, do you think earlier there was some kind of resistance in the minds of organizations?
I mean, if I talk about my organization, yes, we weren't wanting to hire anybody like that, because we always wanted to supervise what these people are doing. We always had that, thought process ki we have to see what are the numbers, what are the delivery, what is the quality. And after this, during this time, this has been a learning that, we can actually work from home. Apart from the regular employees, what we have, the traditional ones, we can also have some gig workers also.
Right. Thank you, Richa. Thank you so much. So, Joyeeta, glad to have you back. I think we had a technical glitch, and I'd love to hear your insights. That obviously, I was asking Richa that the last few months have opened our mind to a lot of possibilities. That yes, it's possible for organizations to have workforce that's remotely working for us. So, what, according to you, are the challenges that organizations face, and what can be done to better manage workforce remotely?
So I think access to technology was one very big question mark which people had. I mean, and I think even when we went into the lockdown situation, that's the time all the companies were put to test in terms of their technical capabilities and their reach, and many people were very pleasantly surprised. I mean, we all have this belief that okay, technology companies have been always working remotely and they are far more adept to handling a situation like that, but the other traditional organizations may or may not be. But I think all of us somehow very, very quickly managed to get back to normal way of working, and working very effectively, I mean efficiently, I would rather, during this process. So I think that was a very big eye opener for all of us. So technology definitely plays a very big role. Second big question was in the minds of people about security, data security, threat. So I think from that angle also, those myths were also gone. Right, today people in the banking industry and all other kind of industries which had very, very stringent, checks and balances, they have also figured out a way. So I think those two were very big barriers, infrastructure barriers in minds of people. The third one was, as Richa just mentioned, was that whole thought of constantly monitoring and reviewing your team members.
Yes.
So I think that's also gone, in a big manner. We know that, reviews can happen remotely. Different companies or different managers have their own rhythm. So that particular mindset, I would say, has also, kind of been broken. Yes, definitely some people adjusted to the whole thing far more easily, and there were others who had to be remotely monitored, because not everybody was really, kind of following the protocols and processes very well. But I mean, what it has done is it has brought in the huge elements of trust, belief in people in the forefront. In this kind of a scenario, those are the cornerstones and the pillars basically of engagement. And um, and and those also align with the gig economy in that sense, right? I mean, so in that sense, we are here to see far more confluence of, the traditional workforce and the gig economy. They would fit in. I mean, we are far more open to now accept
Yeah.
uh, the independent workforce along with the traditional workforce, the mainstream workforce in that sense, right? So it's really fast forwarded a lot of that in the last few months.
Interesting, Joyita. So every, there's an opportunity hidden in everything. And I think companies have, those who have adapted faster will have a broader mindset when it comes to workers in the gig economy. So you did make a very interesting point about data security, mindsets changing. So do you think the HR, as a team, as processes, what are the policies that they can bring in to make this more smooth?
See, one is, flexibility at workplace is definitely important. Then a lot of technology enablement in all our way of working. So if, I mean, if so far the mindset had been that, people who are working remotely or the contract, workers or temporary workers, the investment in their engagement, in their onboarding, in their learning was very limited, because it was considered at an arm's length, and there was not much which was being done for them. But with the gig economy being right there to stay, and it is really beneficial because it is cost effective. You also get in many cases very, very highly, I would say, skilled people for shorter time periods. Like, let's say if it's a startup and they can't afford very highly experienced skilled people full time, then they can hire them for a short period and people move on. So it's beneficial. So definitely in investing in technology. so that you can do faster hiring and onboarding of people, all through technology and digital medium, usage of mobile apps for their training. All of that has to be done for this to be successful. And to keep in mind that you are dealing with individuals and not a team. That is also very important when we are dealing with gig economy workforce, because people come in and go in at their own cycle, at their own pace for different periods of time, and their skill needs or their development needs also vary. But what is important is that a common, bring them at least at a given common platform of the culture of the organization, the values, some basic do's and don'ts, and process orientation kind of a thing, and then they can move on to be on their own for whatever period that they choose to be.
So, Joyta, I just had another question. So, for a lot of organizations, they would probably hesitate to invest a large amount of money or time on training people in the gig economy because it looks like they might learn something and move on. So, what would be your suggestion or recommendation to these organizations when they are thinking of training people employed in the gig economy?
See, if it's a need, and if the gig, integrating both the kind of independent workers and full-time employees is a business need, then the investments would also come in accordingly. I mean, so if it is a business reason, then investments, we have always seen that, if you're able to justify what this section of people are able to bring forth, you know, then anybody would invest in that. And so it has to have a business cause and a reason.
Right.
Um,
Okay, great, Joyta. So next I'd like to ask Richa. Richa, how do you think the gig employment can be beneficial to employers in terms of work and cost effectiveness? Since you work in recruitment, how do you think they look at this opportunity?
So, what I feel that gig economy allows us to think out of the box when it comes to employment. So, as I said, that 15 years ki kahani was something else, and now it is very different. So, approximately 15 years back, it was unthinkable that you can get somebody to do a job for yourself or for your company for 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours in a day. But I think now it is possible, and it's just a click away. A lot of people are wanting to do that, and I have been experiencing this since 4 or 5 months now.
So is
And
cost
it's
the
quite a positive move. It's quite happening for us, for recruitment industry, I believe. Those who are wanting to do that.
so Richa,
Yeah,
would
you were saying
cost be
something.
the only factor, or are there some other benefits to organizations as well?
Yes, so it is definitely cost effective. I will say that because we are only paying for that particular time. Okay. Second, it is definitely, even we are not committing them that you have to be full time with us or for so many years with us. So that has actually made a lot of difference. Apart from cost, I can say we also have an option to how much work we have to give them and how much delivery we want from them, right? So today for a week I can employ somebody because I have, it's a need of an hour. If I have a mass recruitment drive happening, I might need their help, and it will add up to the numbers to show, and my delivery will not get impacted at all.
Great. Thank you, Richa. Joyta, would you like to add your 2 cents on this? Apart from cost, what other benefits do organizations hold?
Yes, so I think you have reached to a far greater, pool of resources to, rely upon, because you are able to, as I said, that, there are sections of people, I mean, let's say everywhere we are talking about improving diversity, right? I mean, and, so because of the flexibility which is there, lot of other people who were otherwise staying away from a 9 to 6 job, or stepping out of household and doing work and stuff like that, you have access to that resource pool, and which is really helpful, because time and again we always have heard that there's a dearth of people, I mean, dearth of skilled people. And so from that angle, that is a very, very big, I would say, benefit that I see, um, as well as availability of skilled people at, I mean, lesser cost, but also you are able to then service your customers better, because the kind of quality output or the value addition that you will be able to provide, that also helps you, I mean, overall.
Absolutely. Great. So, Joyeeta, right at the beginning, you did mention, and I really like that point about how inclusive the gig economy is, right? So, even women are given a lot more opportunities. Obviously, they need to take a break at different, stages in their own career. So, do you think the gig economy is a boon for women employees? And how would it have an impact in the number of women who will be in the workforce again?
So yes, absolutely. I mean, it is definitely going to open roads for a lot of women who have particularly taken a break post maternity or post marriage, because many, is like many places they have a challenge to step out, and work. So it opens doors for them. It could be full time, in the sense working, like they can decide their hours of work, they can decide the pace of their timing, uh, and by staying at home or stepping out for shorter duration, all of that is definitely, going to help. And as I said, that once they come in, I mean, it will be easier. Possibly, I'm hoping that in case if some of them are wanting to join back the mainstream, it will also help them to get started somewhere. Because one of the larger challenges that we see is women leaders at the top. By the time they reach the middle level, a lot of attrition happens for various family and personal reasons. So in case if they are able to come back at some point in time and again restart their careers, that option is also there. So gig economy at least gives them a window to choose if they want to remain more like temp resources, or maybe use it as a bridge to get started with a full-time career eventually.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think I'd like to get Richa's inputs also. So, Richa, if there are people who've taken a break or they've been freelancers, are organizations really open to hiring them, and especially for women employees?
So I genuinely do not know about the other companies. I can only talk about what we are doing. And what I know and have experienced, HR is all about women. I'm so sorry, but here I am actually talking about them, because I feel that in my office, if there are like 100 people, there are 80 or 85 women or girls sitting in the office and working. And being in Ahmedabad, prior to COVID, we never lost anybody because of the corporates. We only lost our women to marriages or the maternities, basically, or they getting relocated to some other place. Now, because of this, what happened with us, this COVID, this actually a lot of made us to think, and we actually have started working back with them. Few of them are working from 9:30 to 6:30. Few starts after 2 o'clock, uh, because they have a small child and they have to feed and everything. Few work even after 6:30, and we have some CVs ready by the next day. So I will say that, they are genuinely committed. The delivery, what used to happen earlier, at least we have been facing good quality CVs coming into us. The delivery, what is happening is very nice. So, and they also want to work. So this probably have changed to this thing that we have hired them back and they are working with us.
Great. Thank you, Richa. So Richa, obviously, as per a recent McKinsey study, almost 540 million people could be looking for jobs through the gig economy by the year 2025. So, what, according to you, is the future of the gig economy, and how is it really going to impact the entire work ecosystem?
So I think this is here to stay. We were saying that it is new normal for
Yeah.
COVID, but I think it is the new normal for gig workers also. It is going to stay. A lot of people have changed their thought processes. People are actually self-investing on themselves by buying them good gadgets and computers, and they are actually wanting to work now. And yeah, so developed countries had adopted this way earlier and very maturely. We talk about any IT experts, like even real estate experts, interior designers, architects, graphic designers. We have seen them. I also have my relatives working from home in US. They are taking projects and delivering them. So it will accelerate the integration of millennials or the gig workers into the corporate world. And interestingly, both will have to evolve, while key and strategic positions will be managed by traditional people. Yeah.
Right. Great, Richa. So, Joyeeta, any inputs from your side? Future of gig economy, according to you?
Is here to stay. It is getting more and more strengthened and acceptable, and it brings a lot of advantages. Today, I mean, just to give you I mean, how many youngsters are buying their own, cars or something? They're very happy to Uber around, right? I mean, so that's changing the way we are living. And the services and the value addition which some of these platforms are providing, the performance standards are being measured, and the satisfaction indexes are being measured. So why not? I'm getting so much more out of this whole situation as a consumer. So I would be definitely looking forward. Until the time there are takers for these services, obviously there'll be people required to work, and working on some of these areas. And it's beneficial both ways, for the consumers, for the companies who are managing them, as well as for the people who are getting so much more the flexibility to generate their own income.
Absolutely. Great insights. Thank you so much, Joyeeta and Richa. And there are a lot of questions that are pouring in from all the people who are watching us right now. So the first question is from Preeti. And I think I will, you can choose, Joyeeta, maybe you can answer first and then I'll go back to Richa. So Preeti's question is, do contract employment comes into the gig economy? And if currently employed, can you work full time with another organization where your PF is getting deducted in current organization? So will this be termed as dual employment, and what can be the consequences and precautions that a company needs to take?
So, yeah, in the gig economy definition, the typical contractual employees don't fall in. It is more of temp, part-time, people who do not have any PM deductions and all those statutory things, coming into the picture. So typically that's how you normally define. So somebody who has signed up a 1-year contract or a time-bound contract, doesn't really fall under the definition of gig economy workforce.
Okay. Richa, would you want to add something?
I think I agree to Joyeeta.
Perfect. So we have another interesting question from Nitin now, that organizations have a bureaucratic approach with emphasis on vendor registration, vendor contract, etc., which are conducive for gig workers. And obviously, are organizations really open to this? So we did briefly touch upon this aspect, but are they open to it, and are they ready with all these fundamental paperwork, onboarding, all of that needs to be done?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. So, which companies are ready for onboarding? You're talking about a company like Uber or whatever? How? I mean, sorry.
So this is a question that's come from Nitin, where he says organizations have a bureaucratic approach with emphasis on vendor registration. So what he's trying to say, there's so much to do before you onboard a new person. So how flexible are organizations today?
See, as I said, that if you need somebody with that kind of a, if you're a gig economy business, you would do everything what is required to hire your people, retain and engage them. So, your traditional or typical HR mindset or a typical processes won't work in those, situations. So you have to design something which is more relevant for them. And as I said, that's where agility would come so much into the picture. Of course, like, as to give you an example, companies like Ola's and Ubers, or for that matter, urban company, their processes are very robust. They would have to adhere to their norms, whatever they have defined, because you're talking of standardization, you're talking about safety and security measures, and some of the basic parameters that you committed to your consumers. So obviously one has to go through all of that, but they would be very relevant for that particular sector or segment, and would possibly not be very similar to what you have in a traditional organization.
So it really depends on the nature of business and the mindset within the organization. So are there any special policies made for gig workers? This is a question that's come from Soumya. So let's take maybe an example of a traditional organization who is now open to gig workers. Are there any special policies that they should have?
So I can say here, so see, policies are to be made. We will have to make a lot of system and process for these people, because these people are not monitored very closely because they are just not sitting next to us. So yes, we will have to have probably the same system and processes, the laws and the policies as we have for our regular employees. Yes, it is essential.
Just to give you an example, like, when you sit in a Uber, they will keep saying, and when you get dropped, ma'am, please give us a good rating.
Right.
Or, if an Amazon delivery guy is coming, they will say, please give us a good rating. So they are their ways of performance management, so to say, that how effective they are. So
True.
it is very unique to that sector, right? I mean,
Great, very interesting insights, Joyeeta and Richa. So we have another question from Preeti. Specifically for human resource professionals, what opportunities are there in the gig economy? So
yeah, I mean, so if you really look at it, I mean, right from recruitment to learning to, employer branding opportunities to, consulting around engagement, performance management, everywhere. I mean, if an HR professional wants to join the gig economy, they can choose their area of expertise and they can provide their services. They can, if I mean, they can be freelancers, they can be associated with let's say a consulting firm which is looking at having people on contract, I mean, let's say short period, short term basis to provide those services. It's a similar kind of an opportunity which is there depending upon what the individual wants. Do
right.
they want a traditional full-time normal job, or they're happy to be, in a consulting kind of a space?
I
And
think
this,
jobs will be replaced by roles.
Absolutely, you're right.
so Richa, since you are running an HR organization, so any other inputs on this topic about what could be the most specific roles for HR?
If I talk about ADDREC, we are open to hire recruiters, senior recruiters at any level. But yes, the leaders needs to be on a permanent role, because this thing is something very crucial. Recruiters and senior recruiters are definitely welcome. Yes, that's all I can say.
Great. So Peter, over to you. I believe you want to run a poll now.
Yes, so we would request all the participants to kindly share your feedback. We'll be running a poll right now on today's session. Request you all to kindly share your feedback out here. While you all are sharing your feedback, would request all to also share your questions pertaining to today's session in the chat window so that we can have them answered. So we are done with the poll. So Grishma, any other questions from your side?
I think, we've addressed all the questions that have come from the group. If there's anything else that you would like our panelists to answer, please put that on the chat box. And, since we have a couple of minutes, we can definitely take them. So great insights, Joyeeta and Richa. Very, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to the gig economy. A lot of opportunity for different kind of people to participate in it. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your insights. So over to you, Peter.
Yeah, well, so thank you, Ms. Krishma, for facilitating this discussion so well. Thank you, dear panel members, Ms. Richa and Ms. Joyeeta, for such an insightful webinar. The way the workforce would be looked at now and in the future, it all depends when we are looking at how every individual looks at an entrepreneurial role. We hope all our participants have had a great session. We make sure that that we are able to answer all questions of our participants. However, if unanswered, we plan to get back to you soon with the answers to your questions. You can also access the slides and recording of our today's session on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. Before we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank all the association, Geisha, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, and LinkedIn Ahmedabad for supporting HRAI and its events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Do join us for our next session on the series Tangled to Untangled, their perspective straight from their experience on the 11th of November 2020 at 3 p.m. IST. Request you all to kindly register for the link. See you soon. Stay safe. Take care and bye for now.
Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.